Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're a returning subscriber, thanks for subscribing and thanks for watching another one of my videos. Perhaps you're watching a video of mine for the first time, and I hope you can enjoy it and check out some of my other videos. I've been doing a bit of fishing lately. Been cutting back on my fishing the last few years as I haven't really had the time to get away and enjoy it, but of late I've been making a real effort to get away, and I've been really enjoying it. And I actually decided to go back through my fishing reel collection and respool a few of my older reels that I've had for perhaps 20, 25, even some of them I think even longer. A few of them had very early braid. I think here in Australia we were a little bit behind in getting on board with braid, so perhaps other people in the world were using braid before us, but I did get on board braid when it came out here in Australia. It was very, very expensive. It still is expensive, but not as bad as what it used to be. So a few of these reels still had some of that sort of first edition braid on them, which I've now stripped. You'll see a few reels here are empty, and I have some braid ready to go with those, but I'll get to that a little bit later. A few of my newer reels, such as my lure fishing reels, have braid on them. And probably my really only new fishing reel is this Shimano one here, which has a coastal camo braid on it. I've actually yet to use this reel, so I'm really looking forward to heading down the beach and giving it a shot. As you can see, most of my reels are actually Shimano reels. I've always been a huge fan of Shimano. I have quite a few of their rods as well, but the rods, I tend to buy something by feel when I go into the store, or if I have a reel, I'll take the reel in with me and match it up with something. So my heart's not that set on Shimano rods, but as far as reels go, I love them, and I've always loved them. And one reason I wanted to show everyone some of these reels is they're actually quite old now. There may be some people watching this video that the fishing reel is actually older than them. Some of you may actually remember some of these older edition reels. Shimano is of course still going, and still has a fairly wide range of reels for every situation. If my memory serves me correctly, some of these even had a 10-year warranty. What they have now, I'm not too sure. So yeah, I thought I'd go through a few of them and get you a bit of a closer look. The pride of my collection is, of course, my 3 Baitrunners. These were the first Baitrunners that Shimano released. They're just beautiful reels. They have the Baitrunner system which suits my fishing purposes, which for those of you who don't know, you basically flip the Baitrunner switch and the spool becomes free spool. I don't know if I can do this one-handed. But yeah, basically the spool just becomes completely free, and when a fish picks up your bait, it won't feel any pressure from it at all and take out your line. You can adjust the tension, of course, back here on that. And then when you want to engage the standard reel, you just flick it or turn the arm, and all of a sudden it's just back to your front drag system. So really loved these reels when they came out originally. My original ones were actually these 2 Aero models, which are the same system, just a little bit cheaper materials. As you can see, they do have a bit of wear and tear on them. This one, I think it was called a GT or SGT or ST, which has the double handle. Also a little bit of shininess on the spool there. And I actually picked up 2 of those at the time, and just became obsessed with using them. I think then I got the baby Baitrunner here, which of course was a little bit more pricey back in the day, and just became a bit obsessed with them, and yeah, bought the next two models as well. I think originally there was only these three sizes. I believe now there's they've changed a little bit in design, but still have the Baitrunner system. But I believe now there may be four sizes. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, if you are interested in those, I'll put a link perhaps in the description of the Baitrunner series. These are, I would imagine these were early 90s models. And I do believe they were the first ones that sort of came out, and they also had the aero version. As I said before, I recently purchased this reel, which is Airlex XSB. Yeah, really nice reel. Feels quite weighty, but does have the long distance spool on it. So it has I believe, I would have close to 400 yards of line on here. Of course, I have the mono backing underneath, and just a little over 300 of the braid on there. This one I'm not sure, I believe I might have got this one as a combo with a surf rod. I don't know a lot about this model. I have used it a couple of times, but yeah, I'm not 100% sure when I purchased this one. These two are a little bit more recent purchases, the Slade, and I'm sorry if I mispronounce some of these names, which I probably will. We'll call that one the Cessna, I'm not too sure. But I use these as my soft plastics reel and my lure fishing reel, which I tend to do quite a bit of lure fishing now. So yeah, really love these reels. They're small and light. They do both have braid on them. And yeah, I'm a big fan of these. They're perhaps a few years older. I believe this one is older than this one. Now these were a couple of my first purchases a long time ago as a teenager. One, this may look totally unfamiliar to a few younger fishermen, but it is a spinning reel. It's similar to a bait caster, but without the sort of thumb and I don't really know how to explain it, but it is primarily used for lure fishing, and I did start off lure fishing with this, catching trout down here in Victoria, and it was fantastic. I don't think it was very expensive, but yeah, fantastic lure. At the moment, actually doesn't have any line on it, as I do now use the spinning Shimano reels here and a Abergasse, which I'll get to later. This, I believe, was actually my first Shimano reel that I bought for myself, which is the FX series. As you can see, there's a bit of a theme coming up here with the rear drags. Now, I don't believe Shimano have kept that design anymore. Someone may be able to correct me on that. But at that stage, Shimano was doing a lot of these rear drag reels. So instead of your modern example, which has the drag at the front, these had a drag at the rear, as you can see there, less and more. So I actually love that design because when you're fighting a fish, and you want to adjust your drag, you don't need to reach around and fiddle around with the drag at the front. It's right there, right at the rear. It's easily readable, less and more, which occasionally I do mess up on when I'm doing a front. I think, oh, is it this way or this way? So as you can see, there was a bit of a theme back. I believe these would have been late 80s or early 90s. But yeah, I believe this one was the first one that I purchased. I think probably then the AX, which was considered a little bit more upmarket version. There's a few models, but I continued with the rear drag system. So both of these reels here were some of my earlier reels, which have had a hell of a lot of use. Probably a little while after that, I'm thinking probably a few years, they brought out these side stab or aero side stab models, which are similar to those two there, but I think just a little bit more advanced features. And I think I got one, I loved it so much I bought two. This one has been respooled recently with some, I guess you call it clear line, and this one's had braid on it for many years. Sort of a camo braid. I'm not exactly sure what you would call that. Sort of brown, green, and tan, and yeah, that's served well. But as you can see, it's over the years it has lost some braid, and I am looking to respool that. I probably will respool that with mono though, as I find the smaller reels I'm quite happy to use mono. The larger reels, braid is my go-to choice. So yeah, so basically those are my Shimano reels. I don't know if I did mention this very old baitcaster as well, which I used for a while, but I've never quite acquired the skill enough to consistently use it. A couple of my other reels that get quite a heavy amount of use. I use these for rock fishing and beach fishing. I find for the rock fishing situations, occasionally you will get snagged on some kelp or on a rock after casting quite a long way. And a couple of times I've had to cut my line and I've lost a lot of line. So early days I did use a braid on them. Now I just use a monofilament because it's cheap and easy to replace, and it's still really good. I think I have Maxima. I'm not entirely sure of this brand. I think it's a BCF brand, which I've tried out. But these reels I use really primarily for rock fishing and even beach fishing. That I don't mind if they accidentally get dropped in the sand and in the water, which which this one has quite a few times. There's some stories behind that, and yeah, these are a great couple of reels. Jarvis Walker and Penn. I do love Shimano, they're my number one go-to, but for a little bit of a cheaper option that's going to get a bit more of a hardcore workout, I'm quite happy to have a couple of cheaper reels, and these two have done the job. Now I believe this is a Penn, I believe you call these an overhead, or I use those primarily really for boat fishing. I have used it on the pier before, like with a balloon to catch sharks. It's quite a heavy reel with a good drag and quite powerful. I don't get to use it a lot as I'm primarily a shore fisherman, but I have had this one for many years. Now this Penn reel, I don't think I've ever actually used it once. I think I got it with a combo, or possibly I ordered something online and you got a reel for free if you ordered over a certain amount. Not that I'm knocking Penn. I think it looks pretty cool, but I think I am yet to use it. Now, as I showed before, I do have this Abumatic. Now I'm still not sure quite what you call these. Sort of a spinning cross baitcaster number. I have used this one quite a bit. I did buy it with a Abu rod as well, and I have used it a lot in salt water for lure fishing. Yeah, it has seen a lot of time and a lot of casts. At the moment I have yes, that does have braid on it as well. That is quite a nice reel. Not sure how long ago I purchased that, but I would say, you know, you'd be looking at easily 10 plus years. And this little one I actually found in the bottom of my with all my fishing reels. I'm not actually sure where this came from. It's a Shakespeare, so I'm imagining I might have got it with a in a combo. I probably wanted the rod, so it came with that reel there. So basically that's my reel collection. I do have a couple of others, sort of really old junky ones I've inherited, but you know, they're really not much to look at. But as I said, these ones, I've just taken the braid off. Actually, I took the braid off and replaced the braid on these arrows with the braid from these. So took it directly off, so the nice fresh braid is on those arrows now. And threw out probably about 100 yards of the top end braid off these, which was quite worn now and faded, which does happen after 20 years. I'm going to be making a video after this one, and I'll put a link in the description of this video to these. And I have my braid right now ready to go on these. So I'm going to put some monofilament on the bottom, and then basically just have a bit of a video on how these come up with the braid on them. So I hope you'll catch me in the next video, or check out some of the other videos from my channel. And I hope you've enjoyed checking out a few of these reels. If there is a specific reel someone's had themselves, I'd love to hear about it. Perhaps you've recognised a few of these reels from past years, or perhaps you've got one as well. Or perhaps the newer ones you'd like to have a question about, or the braid, or you'd like to see a bit more detail of the diameters a reel can take or something. Any questions I'm happy to answer. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.